So in our organization, I want to break down exactly what we do for you. Now, of course, there's in-depth steps to all of these things, which I'm not going to bore you about in this couple second video here. But of course, at the top is you. I eventually want to learn all about the issues, the problems that you're having. What are some of the stressors that come with potentially hiring on a property manager? Maybe you already are working with a property manager and you're a little bit nervous to make the transition over to us. But I want to clear up all those things once we have a chance to actually really dive in deep. But right now, I want to explain to you what actually goes into the back end through our organization into the property management side of things. So we, of course, are broken out into 4 major subheadings, like most organizations are, where marketing and sales, operations, administration, and finance are at the point, okay? So in each of these subsections, we have a huge process that goes into our day-to-day operations for each. So let's call marketing and sales. So we're not just dealing with the marketing and sales for clients and reaching out to folks like yourself. We are actually doing the photography, the lease listing coordination, all the advertising for all the units that we are promoting. We, of course, want to get you the top rent in whichever city that it is we're leasing your property in. And that is crucial. And we have managed to be very successful in that because of a lot of the back-end systems that we utilize. So we don't just put your property up on Facebook and then we pray that someone's going to reach out. We actually have multiple different platforms that we're putting your property on, and it ends up getting us the most exposure on your property, which ends up giving you higher rents, which is great. So of course, we put a lot of time and energy into the advertising and our showings. So we actually have trained showing agents, and our showing agents are only allowed to take on a max of a certain number of properties to make sure that they're not getting overwhelmed, and then that makes sure that your property is getting the right amount of eyes. Okay, and not just that, but we're looking at vetting the right applicants, right? So this tends to lean more into the operations side. I'll touch more on that in a second, but of course we want to track, how many people are clicking on your views, how many people are actually engaging with us in terms of your listing, how many people are booking showings, how many people actually show up to the showings, right? These are all critical and important information that we break down and we assess to make sure that we are priced well so that we're not sitting on the market day after day after day, right? So next is operations. We're typically broken down into 3 main categories when it comes to operations. We're looking at maintenance, management, and of course leasing, which we touched on briefly over here. So in our maintenance, we have a very unique and systematic approach towards clearing up tasks and work orders, okay? So whenever a tenant has an issue of some sort, first of all, we have a process of training tenants how to fix their own issues so that you save time and money, right? And when it comes to something that tenants can't necessarily handle, we have a very quick and efficient way of tracking this. Because we, of course, want to take care of all the issues that are happening at a property quickly and efficiently. If tenants feel like they're being heard and that their issues are being resolved in a timely fashion, they are more apt to be cooperative, better communicators. They feel like somebody cares. And of course, tenants, just like you, are also our customers. It's a unique business in that standpoint where we want to make sure we're treating everybody with the right respect and with the right love, effectively, so that they feel that they're getting the right service. So when we're doing work orders, we're looking at transparency of how the work order is being completed. We take before and after photos of everything we do. Then we also look into potential preventative maintenance issues. Remember, a $200 fix today could potentially solve a $5,000 fix down the road. And we're looking at all these ideas. You can imagine we've been through just about every single issue that a house can handle, from foundation issues to roofs collapsing to pipes bursting in walls. We've dealt with it all. So we now have an opportunity to see where opportunities exist that we can avoid potential catastrophes down the line, right? So next is management. This is critical. Great communication with our tenants, great communication with our clients as well. And of course, posting any sort of notices, rent increases. We track when rent increases need to happen so that you don't need to wake up in the middle of the night and remind us. We got you. Don't worry about it. So also, we're dealing with all the rent collection. We're making sure rent's collected on the 1st. If it's not collected on the 1st, we are issuing notices on the 2nd, as per our laws here in Ontario. So we don't play it's okay if you get it to us in a week. That's not our role. Our role is to make sure that we're protecting your asset and we're doing right by you, right? So we have a very stringent and strict system towards it, and often what we find is that tenants, when they see that property management is well organized and that we communicate effectively, they know that we're not messing around. right? So they make sure that their rent is coming in promptly every single month. So, and last but not least, I touched on this very briefly, setting the right expectations for tenants. If a breaker trips, we coach them through it. You know, if there's something going wrong that we feel is an easy fix, we'll help them go through it instead of us having to constantly send somebody out there to do it on their behalf. Okay, we want to make sure that we're teaching tenants how we want to be treated and how they should be treating their own property or their own home, right? Last but not least, which I touched on earlier as well, is of course the leasing. How we do our background checks, our credit checks. We're doing past landlord references. We also do the landlord before the last landlord reference, because some past landlords are very excited for a tenant to leave, whereas the landlord before them, they've got the mess out of their way, they'll be very honest with us. So we aim to get as much of the details as we possibly can so that we're doing a very thorough look at who that person is going to be that's going to be eventually living in the home. We also do things like social media sweeps, which a lot of property management companies don't do. We also do things like making sure that the past landlord is actually the owner of the home that they've indicated. This is a bit of a hack. A lot of property managers don't even know that this is something they can do, but we actually have access to the land registry, where we have access to all the market data. We know who owns what property here in Ontario, so we're able to look up and say, you told us that your past landlord's name was John, but it looks like it's somebody here named Joe. Can you maybe tell us where the discrepancy is? Sometimes we can flush out fraudulent activity this way. It's very, very useful. So next, we're going to touch on administration. And once again, that comes down to the communication we have with you. We, of course, want to meet all of your expectations. There are times where clients prefer to have things done a certain way. You know, I believe that customization doesn't necessarily need to be a complicated thing. We can make sure that this is going to be tailored and fit the whole or the puzzle pieces that you are looking for it to fit, okay? This is all part of our customer service, which we are very proud of. And we have great relationships with our current clients, and we know that you're going to be another one of those. So, of course, we also deal with our own human resources here, our staff here. We have incredible staff that help us on a day-to-day basis. And of course, we do our own software management. We use a software called Buildium. And the Buildium actually implements a lot of these automations and a lot of these tools that we use on a day-to-day basis so that everything tends to be automated. If we can automate more things, that means that it's less time and energy for us to do it here physically, which ends up converting to less cost up front for property management. And of course, everyone's happier, right? It makes a lot of sense. Last but not least is our finance. Accounts payable and accounts receivable. This is consistent. There's nothing more annoying than when a property manager pays you on the 5th one month, and the 20th the next month, and the 15th on the 3rd month, and then the 15th on the 8th month, and you don't receive anything on the, you want to be consistent. This business is simple, but it's not easy. And that's the fallacy that property management has. People think, I can put a tenant in there. I can collect rent from that. You know what, if the floor is separated or if the faucet's a little bit leaky, I can go take care of that. But that's the simple component to it. It's not easy when it's 10 o'clock at night and you're with your family, or it's not easy when it's a Sunday and you're up at the cottage or with somebody else and you have to run back because there's an emergency. It's also not easy when it's like, what happened? Who do I even call? Who do I call to solve this issue, right? So sometimes it's what we don't know that is some of the most critical components, and especially with all the laws and regulations that right now are here in Ontario, we're all the more reason to be extra critical towards who are we getting into our leases? How are we managing them when they're in there? What are things that we can and can't do, right? So these are all things that we have the experience with, we have the understanding about, and we've been doing it for clients and for ourselves for a number of years. Last but not least is, of course, tracking. I think that this is one thing that a lot of property managers don't necessarily look into as much, but we are tracking on a consistent basis. And what they say, like, what you don't track, you can't expect, right? So we are always looking to see how can we be improving? What's our average days on market? How quickly are we turning over tasks and work orders? What is our average cost per work order? These are all things that we can make sure that if we improve on those, we do a better job for you in the long run. So long story short, this is a very quick kind of bump in your face indication of what we do in our totality. However, all these things are broken down, as I said, into very succinct steps. We've managed to automate a lot of it to make it work for us, and that's why we've been able to scale the way we have, and that's why we're looking forward to bringing you on as a client as well. So I look forward to us talking a little bit more about this and really getting to the issues and helping you solve them.